Have you ever heard or found a meme of mistranslation? So I found a meme posted by Bagasta in X. So the meme says, if you can't pray in English, please pray in your local language. Last Sunday, I heard someone saying, Lord, you are nothing without me. Imagine going to hell because of grammar. So this kind of context actually the real example of mistranslation because someone translating the word for words or for the literal meaning instead of concerning the purpose of the prayer. So what we will going to discuss is Skopos theory in translation. But before that, let me introduce myself. So my name is Erlina Dususanti with name 027. But I'm not alone here. I'm with Prasita Zadivani with name 158. So we will going to discuss about background of translation theory, Skopos theory in translation, application of Skopos theory, and conclusion. Background of translation theory will be explained by Keiza.
Okay, here we have Skopos theory. And what is it about? What is Skopos theory? So, Skopos theory is a theory of translation that was developed in Germany in the late 1970s by Vermeer and which constitutes a general movement away from primarily linguistic and rather formal translation theories to a more functional and socioculturally oriented notion of translation. So basically, the Scopus theory by Firmer is to translate or interpret or speak or write in a way that enables your text or your translation into the function in the situation in which it is used and with the people who want to use it and precisely in the way they want it to function. So basically, it's all about the function. It's all about the directly intended for this purpose. And also, translation is not seen as a transcoding activity, but as a particular form human action. All right, so we're moving on to the next one is characteristic of Skopos theory. Well, as we know, Skopos theory focuses on purpose or Skopos of translation. Here, the outcome of translational action is a translatum based on Firmer 1979 and translate in Race and Firmer, a particular kind of target text. In here, there are three main characteristics of Scopus theory. For the first one is the source text typically has the similar impact on the translation text. Well, a target translation text is determined by its scopus, and translation text also is a message in a target culture that concerning a message in search text, and a target text is not clearly reversible. This is related to the second characteristic, which is translation is a valid representation from the source text or the original text, and the target text must be internally coherent, as we related in the third characteristic. The translation is coherent with the reader's situation or feeling. So basically, the Scopus theory is coherent within the receiver's situation and has the relationship of the source text to the target text.
The next is rules of Skopos theory. Based on Bahadori 2010, there are 6 rules of Skopos theory. The first is a translatum or TT, or we know it as target text, is determined by its scopus. In other words, the translation target text is determined by its purpose, scopus. So the scopus means here purpose. And then the most important thing here is the purpose of the translation itself, not just the translating word by word or the literal meaning. And then the second is a TT or target text is an offer of information in a target culture and target language concerning an offer of information in a source culture and source language. Translation is like conveying information from the source culture to the target culture. So it's not just the language that get translated, but also the context, the culture, and the intent. For example, if you're translating an advertisement, it has to match the lifestyles and taste of the audience in the target culture. So we adjust the target culture. And then the third is a TT, does not initiate an offer of information in a clearly reversible way. This means that the translation doesn't have to be 100% reversible to the original language. The goal is not to simply copy and paste the source text into another language, but to create a version that works well in the target context. 4. A TT must be internally coherent. This means that the translation must be logically coherent and understandable to the target audience. For example, the paragraphs shouldn't be random and the sentence shouldn't confuse the reader. It must make sense as a whole, even though it's not the literal translation. And then the fifth or the next point is that TT must be coherent with the source text. But it also has to be coherent with the source text. While adapting is okay, so even if we adjusting the purpose and the translation version, but don't let the basic meaning or the key ideas become incoherent or change completely. And then the last is the fifth rules above stand in hierarchical order with the Skopos rule predominating. All the rules above are arranged in a hierarchical order with the Skopos rule being the most important. So if there is a clash between points 4 and 5, for example, you prioritize the one that supports the purpose of the text the most. Okay, to make it more understandable, so we offer the Skopos stereo application example. We found three media. The first is Atomic Habits by James Clear, English to Indonesian version, and then For Children Fables, English to Malay. And then the third, online media's news content, Indonesian to English. The first Skopos stereo application will be explained by Keisha.
Next one is the Skopos theory application 1. Here, Skopos theory is suitable for the translation process of atomic habits because it emphasizes the intentional function of the text in the target culture. Here, there are three main examples that we have already analyzed using Skopos theory in the Atomic Habits book. For the first one, James Clear's practical advice. For example, in the book stated habit staking. In Indonesia, it is called like it is translated to tumpukan kebiasaan, and it relies on the household examples. And the second one is a translator can substitute culture specific terms such as American football. It is translated to Indonesia is sepak bola. It's not sepak bola America, but it is just only sepak bola. This also substitute the culture specific terms, and also a translator can render idiomatic expressions in Indonesia equivalents, such as tiny changes, remarkable results, perubahan kecil, hasil yang luar biasa. So it can substitute the culture specific terms and also render idiomatic expressions. And then the third one is specialized jargon, such as habit loops, or in Indonesia is lingkaran kebiasaan, remains exact, and also specialized in metaphors are rewritten in the form of local proverbs or slang to keep motivational effects. So those are the three examples that we have already analyzed in the Atomic Habits book.
Let's go to Skopos theory application 2. So based on the article held by Dowd et al. In 2021, the use of Skopos theory in evaluating readability and cohesion in English to Malay translation using 4 selected fables. In this article, 3 oblique translation methods are used: modulation, adaptation, and transpositions. Here, for example, the first example here is modulation. The purpose of these changes is because if it's translated literally, it would overwhelming for children to read since there are too many verbs. So the first here, the fox who had consented to act as the judge marked the distance and started the runs off. Semua hewan dating menyaksikan perlombaan itu. All the animals came to watch the race. So the verb to act, judge, marked, started is just reduced. Then why this is the Skopos theory? Because if we use modulation, it can help make the message more natural or respectful based on the purpose. And then the next example here is adaptation. The target text emphasizing the negativity of greedy instead of clearly saying foolish as the source text does. So here we can see it is foolish to be greedy. So the author stated directly foolish. And then the target text sikap tamak merugikan diri. Back translation, greedy behavior is detrimental to oneself. So here we use adaptation to make the audience understand and relate better to our translation version. And then the last example of this article is transposition. Rather than translating literally the phrase take a nap to mengambil tidur that sound unnatural, they translated the word use tertidur. This is the example of transposition. He lay down beside the course to take a nap. Sang Arnab tertidur. It used to be mengambil tidur. The hare fell asleep. Transposition also one of the Skopos theory because it makes the translation flow naturally in the target language. And then the next is Skopos theory application 3. Skopos theory is also suitable for the translation process of news. In this article, the news mainly taken from Antara News, which is Indonesian English media. There are activities in order to translate the text into English, such as changing title and lead, removing unnecessary information, adding important background information, change the order of the paragraphs, and summarizing information. So all the activities here to make sure that the target translation or target text could also reach the purpose same as the source text. For example here, the source language clearly stated the KKN, the word KKN, and then the target language here, corruption, collusion, and nepotism. Since the purpose of the text is to inform about the terms of KKN that only exist in source language, which here is Indonesian, So the translator used the information addition so that the target audience can understand better even they are not from Indonesia. Based on Kardiasa et al. 2023. So to sum up, of all the Skopos theory we have studied, Skopos theory in translation is a translation that focuses on the purpose of the target text and adapts to the target language audience. The Skopos theory offers more accurate target audience needs and frees the audience to understand more because of the cultural adjustment and knowledge of the general audience. The story was developed by Firmer in Germany in 1978. Many media can use this Skopos theory, such as fables, short stories, subtitles, advertisement, and many more. Then, for the implementation of Skopos, it is prioritized using strategies such as the use of modulation techniques, adaptation techniques, and transposition techniques, and other activities as I mentioned before. That's all from our presentation from Skopos theory. Me and Prasita wanna say thank you so much.